love, happiness, peace. Really, we're redefining what good looks like on a day-to-day basis, in and out, 24/7. We're somebody who never really sleeps. We never stop working. We never stop grinding. We never stop going to that next level to fulfill a need in the IDD space, right? My name is Kenneth Allen Thomas, and I just messed up my mic right there, but it's all good. We're going to keep it going. And my name is Kenneth Allen Thomas, one more time, everybody. And the Dancing Dad, listen, I'm here to give you guys, some insight on just leveling up on life, right? Integrated community living, adept programs. We're here. I'd like to introduce to you guys my main man, my co-host, Mr. Jake J. Jones, and we're going to be talking about some amazing things, right? Right, Jake, my man.
That's right.
How you doing?
Good morning.
We're
Good
going to be
morning,
talking
sir.
about some amazing things, growing life, business, leadership, and getting our people that we serve on a day-to-day basis to that next level to where, like you say all the time, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job,
That's
right?
right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's right.
That'll be the biggest honor.
Yes, but so for those that don't know, Jake J. Jones, just give a little bit about yourself and, how do we get into this IDD space here at Adept?
Oh, well, so I was in college. I'll skip to that part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll just skip forward. So I was in college looking for a
That just
job.
basically means Jake don't want to show his age right now.
So I was in college looking for a job,
Uh,
and in my area, I saw this building being built,
yeah.
and it said "Coming soon, the Ark."
Mm.
And I said, "Wow, what's that?"
Hmm.
I don't know what the Ark is. So I watched it being built for a while, and then eventually it opened up. I didn't really know what they did,
Hmm.
and I just happened to be in school, and I was looking for a job. At the time I was a musician as well, and I was
Yeah.
kind of looking to transition to something else. And I found a job at the Ark. It
Mm.
was listed in the paper. Back
Hmm.
then, we used to look in the paper for
Yeah.
jobs.
It had no.
Remember
That
that?
means we didn't have no IG,
No, we didn't have
no
nothing. Yeah,
Insta,
there was
no
no.
Indeed.
I think it was AOL.
Yeah,
The
AOL with
dial-up.
the dial-up. Oh man. Okay.
So I saw a job for a recreation manager.
Okay.
I said, "Oh, okay. I used to play sports. I
Yeah.
could do that." So I went in for the job. I had no idea what I was getting into. Interviewed, and and they explained to me what they did. I said, "Okay, all right. I could do this."
Hmm.
I still had no clue.
Yeah.
That this was going to be the catapult to my career.
Mm.
So then I just that's how I first got my entry. I got the job. I became a recreation manager. I worked with uh, youth and adults
Hmm.
in recreation programming, setting up all the activities,
Okay. Yeah.
making sure they went out and booked the stuff and
Hmm.
made the transportation arrangements, got the tickets, and then also just over summer camps.
Hmm.
So put me in charge of summer camps, making sure that the summer camps ran and had programming and all that stuff.
Mm.
And it was a mixture of ages and different needs
Hmm.
in those camps. I was hiring, running the staff. So it was a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
responsibility. But that was my first step into the field, and who would know? I didn't know that it would stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was going to school for what was I going to school for? I think it was in my graduate
Hmm.
place at that time, and
Hmm.
I was going. I was in liberal studies, and I think I was also wrapping up a teaching
Mm.
degree
Okay.
at the time too.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, this is applicable to that,
Right.
teaching and some stuff like that. But I really never thought that I would stay.
Yeah. It's funny how we never really think of what we're doing or what we're studying. We never think on where we're going to actually end up.
Yeah.
In me, for example, for those that don't know, me being a father, I have a special needs son. His name is Christian. Some of
Mm-hmm.
y'all may have seen him on Instagram or all over the internet dancing with me. And Christian has Down syndrome. So I never thought that uh, I would be a father to a son who has any type of,
Right.
special ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the people, what's really, really important is that sometimes in life, what we are training for is not the place where we're going to actually end up,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
I
I
think that
agree.
if some people could be training to be a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and you think that you're going to go to a K through 12 school,
Yeah.
right, or a high school or
Yep.
higher education, but your the it could transfer into your teaching training can be used in a space where you had no clue
You're right.
on where.
Definitely transferable skills.
Right.
Yeah, in this and for the IDD space.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
So
talk about that. Like you're where you're a musician. You know what I'm
yeah, I used all
saying?
of it,
Teach
which is funny.
everything.
Like,
Right.
so I'm a recreation manager. I had to come up with content,
Mm-hmm.
right? Recreational content all the time.
Right.
So eventually I got to music. I said,
Mm.
wow, yeah, I'm a good musician. Why don't
Mm-hmm.
we bring a music program
Mm-hmm.
to this space?
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. We started out with like, I would invite my musician friends down and we would jam for, we would have like a cafe, like a dinner night.
Mm-hmm.
And folks would come in, have dinner, and then we would be on the side just jamming,
Just
singing
jamming.
tunes. Yeah,
Mm.
I'd invite my guys down,
Yeah.
and they would gladly do it. It was really really cool.
Yeah.
And so that was the first introduction they had to like a music
Mm-hmm.
exposure at that place. And then later they did develop more of a teaching aspect to the music. They
Mm.
hired someone to come in who did a really great job because it's a totally different approach
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with different types of abilities.
Right.
So yeah, so we developed a music program there.
Right. So let me ask you a question, right? So you as a musician, it sounds like you were conducting a lot, right?
Yeah.
And putting things in place and putting things in order, right? And here at Adept, I kind of see you doing the same thing,
Mm.
right? And what does that look like from, I guess like a business perspective now, where we've got our managers, we've got, the people that are working in the homes. Like, what's your mindset when conducting this orchestra of building a successful, company to go to that next level, being that we've been around 47, 50 years,
Mm.
and now like looking towards the next 50 years, right? What does that
Yeah.
look like for you from a musical standpoint? How does that transfer in translate?
Well, I'm trying to, at this point, make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
That's the thing. So when you have a company that's been around a long time, what I found is people develop habits from 10 years ago or
Yep.
whatever, things that have kind of run
Yep.
their course and need to be updated.
Mhm.
And then you have, because of this field, people move around a lot. So they
Mhm.
go from one company to another, and they bring with them those skills that they learned at each company, the processes and all that. So if you're not careful and you don't have a really defined way of doing things,
Mhm.
if you have several programs, let's just say they're identical, let's say they're group homes,
Mhm.
you could have 10 managers running 10 programs completely different,
Mm.
and they'll have different outcomes. Some will
Mm.
have great ones, some will have poor ones.
Mhm.
So we want all of them to have great
Right.
outcomes. So we really needed to deep dive and look into who is doing well, why are they doing well, what are they doing, and how can we translate that so that all the programs are doing the exact same thing.
Mm.
It's like, so when a manager comes in, we want them to know the adept way
Right.
of doing things.
Mm.
Every company does things a bit different,
A bit
depending on
different,
the
right?
culture, depending on their appetite for risk,
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So you have to so for me, conducting would be, okay, let's get together and figure out exactly what we're expecting of people to do,
Mm.
what kind of outcomes we want, how are we going to translate that to processes.
Mhm.
The biggest thing with a Adept or any kind of business or human service business like this is
Mhm.
stuff goes on all the time,
Yeah.
24/7, 365.
Absolutely.
We're always getting data coming up, right?
Mm.
So the problem is that the data doesn't always reach us
Mhm.
as managers, administrators in real time.
Mhm.
So, for example, somebody could miss signing a MARS, an MARS, which is a medication
Mhm.
piece. You have to sign that you delivered the medication. So somebody might have delivered it and then they don't sign it,
Mm.
and then for whatever reason, it gets overlooked.
He's overlooked.
Because for us, we don't close,
Mhm.
right? We've never been closed in 47
That's
years,
crazy.
not even for 1 hour.
That's
So
crazy.
most
Yeah.
businesses close for a day or
Yeah.
hours, and you have time to inventory and catch up. In these businesses, you don't.
Right.
So it's very easy for the things of the day to prioritize over the things of yesterday,
Right.
and then you forget to go back and
Mm-hmm.
correct that issue,
Mm-hmm.
and then that issue stays there.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is make sure the data comes up,
Mm-hmm.
it's right in your face, it stays there as a
Mm-hmm.
reminder,
Mm-hmm.
and this needs to be done. So for us, it's about workflows. It's about how can we use systems, how can we use
Yeah.
digital systems, artificial intelligence, which will be ubiquitous
Yeah.
in probably no time soon.
Right.
Everybody will have it. But that has been something that we wanted to integrate, and we're starting to do that to
Yeah.
help in oversight and data collection.
For sure. So in
Yeah.
other words, like, so we're setting a standard here,
Yeah.
right? I heard Nick Saban say this morning. Like I was just scrolling on Instagram, and he said somebody asked him a question. Why do you coach your people so hard, right? And he was like, well, you think that it's hard, like you think that it's like that, but every great organization has a standard,
That's right.
right? He said, uh, high assertive people don't like mediocre people,
Mm-hmm.
and mediocre people don't like high assertive people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when
That's
you
great.
mention like we want things set
Mm-hmm.
across the board, I think that that's important, especially dealing in this type of space, because look who we're serving,
Right.
right? There's no room for error
Mm-hmm.
in the IDD space. Like
Yeah.
you've got to be like on it, top notch, ready to go.
Yeah.
Because look at somebody like me, right? I'm a guardian,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we were talking earlier, like for my son to go to a facility and learn, I want this place to be, top notch, to where I feel I can trust you.
Right.
I feel that you're gonna, your workers are gonna be on top of their job. They're not gonna be lazy. Like, listen, no offense, but if you're having a bad day, that doesn't mean anything to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know what I'm saying? I think that you can really kind of like control that to a degree, and not let it affect who we're serving,
Right.
right? For example, a couple of years ago, my son was diagnosed with leukemia,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when he was diagnosed, he's 14 months old at the time.
Wow.
So imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Parent, 14 months old, diagnosed with leukemia, has Down syndrome,
Wow.
low muscle tone, dealt with,
Mm.
blood issues from the day he was born, right? So all he knows is mom and dad,
Right.
right? And his sister and brothers and those that are in this. This is his community right
Right.
here. So for me to let him go outside of that, I've got to be able to trust. So this is
Right.
why I say to the doctors, before we even like started chemotherapy and all of that stuff, I say to the doctors to say, hey, listen, um, doc, I know that you're going to do your job,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I need to get you on the same standard on where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
so that you understand what I'm expecting,
Right.
right? So I say, I don't care if you're a nurse, a doctor, a tech, I don't care if you're a transfer, you come into this room to serve my son, please make sure you come in with a positive attitude, because your negativity or your attitude towards whatever it is that's on the outside, I don't want it to affect what's going on in my son's life at the
Right.
end of the day, right?
Right.
And I had to say that, because if I don't, then I wouldn't be doing my job as a leader, covering that track. I'm not trying to be, a mean person, but it's my son's life we're talking about.
Correct.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think that, like, what's your expectation, of, you know, just all around when it comes to the IDD space? Like,
Yeah.
what's your expectation when we're hiring somebody new, or when people are coming in? Like, what's that standard? Because we talk about it all the time. We're redefining what good looks like. What is that looking like for you?
Well, we were just talking to staff the other day,
Yeah.
and I said, I want you to remember a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
After all the things I said, there's a couple things I want you to remember, that our biggest strength is kindness,
Yes.
how we treat others. What I've noticed, because I've had a lot of experience training staff on how to be successful with people that need high level behavior intervention,
Yep.
and the one antagonist that's always there, that is uh, how do we communicate,
Mm.
how do we respond, to a behavior.
Mm-hmm.
How do we avert a behavior by how we are conducting ourselves with this individual?
Mm-hmm.
And mostly it's kindness. Kindness is not just speaking with a nice tone and all that. I think it also translates emotionally.
Mm.
When you talk about kindness, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about like how your mindset.
Yeah.
Like you're going to work because you care about the
Right.
people that you're serving.
That's right.
You're not, going there to whatever. Yeah, yeah. I guess any job you should care about what you're doing,
Yeah, you
right?
should.
To do well, whether you're
Right.
making hamburgers and
Yeah.
hot dogs or
Right.
you want to make them well,
Right.
right? But I'm just saying you're going to deal with people, human beings
Right.
that are trying to go about their day with their challenges that they
Mm-hmm.
have. We were just talking a bit ago. I mean, yes, these folks have challenges that we serve, but they're alive and
They're
they're
like, yeah,
well,
they're
and
people.
yeah, they're people. They
Yeah.
have a life. They don't look at themselves the way
Right.
other people do. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, people apologize
Yeah.
when
Like,
your son, you tell them your son
so let me
has.
tell let me tell a story. Right. Let me tell a story.
Wow.
So for the listeners out there, and for anybody that has a child with special needs or anything like that, I'm sure you probably have experienced this. Where I was telling Jake that sometimes when my wife and I will sit there and say, "Hey, yeah, yeah, Christian has Down syndrome," and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Well, what are you sorry for? Like, what did he do? Like, what did I do? Like, what did you do? Like, you don't have to be sorry for somebody's condition. You don't have to be sorry
That's
because
right.
the way somebody was born. Like, that's something that's out of our control.
Hmm.
We don't control that. I didn't just pop up one day and say, "Hey, I wanted my son to have Down syndrome," or anything. No parent, does that. But we deal with it and we move accordingly because we're assigned to this for some reason,
Right.
right?
That's right.
So it to me, I think that it's because people in society today are used to a normal thing, right?
Mm.
And I read this stat that every 1 in 3 people would rather not deal with change,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
right?
Sure.
So
Hmm.
change is coming, somebody's saying, I don't want to deal with it,
Right.
right? So really, people want things to stay the same for the
Hmm.
most part. Like every third person wants, they don't want nothing to change or anything like that. I think that we deal with uh, a society that has more of a fixed mindset instead of a
Mm.
growth mindset,
Mm.
right? And I feel that if we start to open up the conversation, on what exactly is a growth mindset to give
Mm.
people that view, we can actually normalize change. And
Yeah. Sure.
you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so I say all that because I feel that when you are going into um, a space like this, if let's just say if you're a worker and you want to work in this position, this facility, then you've got to understand that, hey, this is going to be different.
Hmm.
This is not going to be what I'm used to. And you know what? At the end of the day, these are people. And I'm
That's
I'm
right.
I'm coming in here with the mindset of to serve,
Hmm.
right? Some people come in with the mindset of they just want to check or they just need to pay their bills and stuff like that. And that could be all well and good. That could be part of it, but the intention behind it, I think, is where I'm getting at, right?
Right.
Like, how hard is it to find people that are intentional about what they do?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't think most people put that at the top, of their mindset or their when they think every day. So, for example, like here's a simple example. So, every day
Okay.
I wake up and no matter how I'm feeling in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
whatever my day is lined up to be, sometimes it's stuff I'm looking forward to, sometimes it's stuff I'm not necessarily looking forward to dealing with,
Yep.
But at the beginning of the day, I have to go back and remind myself, I'm alive today.
That's right.
First thing,
Come on.
thank you
Come
for
on.
being here.
Yeah.
So many people aren't.
Yeah.
I'm already ahead of the game,
Come on.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think most people. I don't think most people do that.
Mm-hmm.
For one,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think most people have. And this is from evidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
not what I think. It's just what I'm
It's
seeing.
what you see, right?
Most people aren't walking around thinking about deliberateness and intention and purpose and what they're doing necessarily.
Yeah.
for whatever reason, I don't know, distractions. They're not understanding how to contextualize the things that are going on in their lives or around them.
Come on.
There's so much information and stuff going on these days. People can't tell good from bad, good from evil. Nobody, you know.
Yep.
So, so yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like folks like you,
Yeah.
like you're like yourself, and me in my position, it's since we do have that, it's something that we need to share
Yeah.
with them and kind of instruct and teach.
Yeah.
This is how you
See, I like that.
approach, right?
Right? I like that because if we instruct and we teach people, right? Because it's known that there are many people that are not like this.
Right.
If we can instruct them and teach them, then that means that they can instruct and teach others. Right?
Correct.
That's where the actual change
Yeah.
begins to happen.
That's right.
Right? So, even with our programs, that we install at Adept, whether it be the Unshakable Method, the Leadership Within trainings and things of that nature, it's like we're instructing people to say, hey, here's a different approach. Here's a different mindset. Here's something that you may or may not have thought about, right? Maybe you're a guardian. You didn't think about, your loved one in this aspect. Here's a training for it,
Yeah.
right? If maybe you're a leader of some sort and a manager, here is some training that you may not have thought on how to, help your staff out, right? Here's a training on it, right? I think that when we continue to plant seed and provide resources, right? I think that's where the change, truly happens. I think that if we continue to stay the same and we're just fixated on, all right, this is just the way it's going to be forever, then there's going to be obviously no evolution, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost like how do you transform, because you're always going to have those people that are just like not going to move at all,
Yeah.
right? But how do you, in your experience, how do you take them out of Egypt in a sense, right? Like it's almost like they in the hood, but like, how do you take them? How do you could take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person type of thing,
I've heard that.
right?
Yeah. It
How
can
do you,
apply to different things.
right? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
How do you, as in your experience, how have you been able to kind of like manage and transform those people in their mindset?
Well, you just for one, person has to want to.
Okay.
You can't control people.
Right. Absolutely. 100%.
I think most people walk around for the most part not very happy in their lives, most of them. And I'm getting somewhere with this.
Yeah.
I think that what people need to discover, and we need to help them discover, is that happiness is really not that hard. It's not that hard to be happy.
No.
It's just a choice. It's the way you look at things. It's the way you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can go from a very low place to a very high place with just a little perspective.
Yep.
Right? A little bit of insight. And that's what I look for every day. One thing I go back to, I'm alive today. That changes my whole mindset.
Right.
Then I realize, wait a minute, what am I feeling like this for when I serve people who wake up every day with way more challenges than I have.
Absolutely. Do you feel like there's some form of entitlement going on with people? Like, do you feel like people are entitled in some way, and that may be a reason why they don't wake up with that type of perspective?
I think that could be a way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you deserve certain things, or some things are supposed to be just given to you. I don't think people mostly have what I would call a stoic approach to life.
Yeah.
I don't think that I think people think that life is always supposed to be happy, happy, happy. Everybody's chasing this, but they're looking at things outside of themselves to make them happy.
Right.
Like if I buy this new suit, that'll make me happy. If I get this new person in my life, that'll make me happy. If I get this new house, if I get this new thing, if I get this new shiny thing. And it has nothing to do with it. You can have all that stuff and still be unhappy.
So here's an approach, right? So we just laid out a problem.
Yep.
right? So now our job is give them a solution, right?
Yeah.
So if we give them a solution, let's just take it like this, right? You talked about the one thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is that you're happy to be alive,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a solution for everybody, and I challenge the audience on this, right? I've done this many times. If if you guys do this one exercise, and we may do more exercises and stuff like that, but if you do this one exercise, I guarantee it'll change somebody's life, right? I'm gonna give two examples. The first example is if you do a 30-day challenge, right, and you do a win and loss column, right, in your notebook every day, right? You write down how many wins, right, and then you write down how many losses that you've had in a day, right? So if you write down how many wins, all right, obviously you woke up this morning.
That's
That's
right.
always a win,
Yep.
right? Because
Big win.
you can't write down in your notebook if
It's a big
if you
win.
didn't wake up,
That's
right?
right.
That's a win.
Yep.
Number two, I'm able to write in my notebook right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's two guaranteed wins right there.
That's right.
Breathing, your eyelids work,
Yeah.
right? You're eating. You know what I'm saying? You're able to get to work from A to B. Your family is healthy. Like all those are wins that we overlook
Yes.
because we normalize them and we just see it as, oh, that's just a normal thing. But they're really wins because imagine when you don't have it
That's right.
versus how many losses are you really having inside of a full day.
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe you got to work and the internet's not working, so you can't complete your particular task, or maybe somebody cursed you out or something like that, or
Right.
cut you off on the road.
Right.
All right, yeah, that's a couple losses, right? But the reality is that I guarantee it, by the end of the day you're gonna have more wins than losses, and by the end of the 30 days you're gonna have a winning percentage, which makes you a winner at the end of the day. That's how we develop a winning mindset, right?
Right. Right.
So that's the one example. The second example is just looking at the breath of life, right? So I looked this up. A person breathes at least 23,000 times just in one day alone.
Wow.
Just in one day. Average person. So if we take 23,000 and we multiply it by how many days that actually we've been living, right? That's how many blessings you've been getting in just one area of your life since the day you've been born.
Right.
So some of us have breathed, multiple millions and millions of
That's
times
true.
because nobody knows
Hopefully. Thank
the
goodness.
last day you're going to be here.
Right.
And just having gratitude
Yeah.
of, yo, I woke up this morning. But we overlook it so much,
We take a lot for granted.
Yeah.
And I think that's the entitlement, if you want to put it that way.
Yep.
Like we're entitled to wake up. No, not really.
Yeah.
We're entitled to a lot
that's
of
good.
things. Love, happiness, so all these things. If you have them, be grateful.
Be grateful.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't have them and you want them, well, you work towards them and you wait your turn. So most people, I think, back to your point, most people don't look at life that way.
Yeah.
And and it's hard to find staff or people that are like that when they come to you.
Right.
When you do find it, it's like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
like you want to.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, you want
Let's
to
go.
get them right in.
Yeah.
When you find somebody like that, that's really a blessing.
Yeah.
But not most people don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a shame,
Yeah.
right? I think that's why we're here,
Yeah.
right? Because we've experienced life on multiple levels
Yeah.
where, you know, possibly between us both, we've got, somewhere close to 90 to 100 years worth of experience, right? I know I don't look that old, everybody. But I'm up there. Amen. I'm up there.
Thank goodness.
But my point is that I think that if we take our experiences, display them, and lay out the examples for this generation, right? Because we live in such a society where, like you mentioned earlier, people are distracted, right? People are, their mind is all over the place. But let's keep the main thing,
Right.
right? I think that if we can focus on that and not necessarily get caught up in the false opportunity of what's out there, like on what you probably see on the internet and things like the
Yes.
real work comes from you doing the work.
That's right.
Like, you got to do the
That's a good
work.
point. What was that thing? The way forward is through the work you've been avoiding, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
do the
avoiding the
work.
work, right? You
Yeah,
just got to work. If you want happiness, you got to work at
yeah,
it, right? You gotta like I tell kids this all the time as well too. Like, everything is not as negative as you make it out to be, and I've got 5 kids,
yeah.
and sometimes they can get down on themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna be honest, like, that's a trigger for me.
Sure.
Like, wait a minute, hold on now, you've got a good life.
Yeah,
Like, you're not in the street. You got a roof over your head. You got electric. You got water. You got all these things.
yeah.
Like, hey, versus I get messages from people, from organizations all the time in Africa and other parts of the country where,
Hmm.
you know, their circumstances are like really bad.
Sure.
Like, sleep, their whole house is our setup.
Right.
Like, literally.
Right.
That's the couch, the kitchen, and the bathroom is all in the
The
same
same
area.
spot. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have to be a little bit more grateful of, and I'm not saying that all parts of Africa are like that, everybody. So don't misquote me on that. I'm just certain areas. But I think that if we lead with intention, if we lead with gratitude, if we lead with those things, I think that not only do we have appreciation for the differences of what we see in one another, right? But we have an overall appreciation of life, and then the people that sacrifice to go into the IDD space, we have another appreciation for them because they don't have to do it.
That's right.
You
You don't
know,
have to be doing this. You can be
no,
doing something else.
you could be.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so like, so my question to you is like, um what's the motivation behind what you do, like, what's that driving factor for you, what sparks your fire to get up every day and just get after it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity that has been put in my lap,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I often wonder sometimes, I was just thinking about that this morning, on my way here. I was like, wow, if I had said no to the job, what would my life be right now?
Mm.
What would have happened to my life, my career trajectory,
Mm.
had I not taken the opportunity that was put in my lap that day to become this recreation manager.
Right.
And then I looked at my whole life, and I've kind of been that way. I've always been, so it might have started, I think, as a performer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're an
Yep.
artist, right?
Yep.
So as a performer, gigs are hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn to take whatever gig
Mm-hmm.
is put in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
because it could equal your your meal that
Your meal
night.
that night, yeah.
You're
Yeah,
being
come
able to
on.
feed yourself,
Yes.
right? So even if you are not sure that you can do the gig, or you haven't had experience, you say yes and you figure it out.
Mm.
And look, that's been my life coming up.
That's so
I've had
good.
so many gigs like that where I've gone on and I'm like, oh man, I hope this works out.
Yeah.
I don't know the set list. I've never played with these guys before, these people. Let's see how it works out.
Yeah.
And you have your successes and you have your bad nights,
Right.
and you go home and you get better.
Yeah.
And through that process of being put in the fire over and over and
Over and
over
over
and over
again.
again, right?
Mm.
All right, it's time for, let's give the bass player something.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was just
Yeah.
trying to stick with the tune. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
what the progression is.
Right.
Oh, you want me to light it up here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you better not be pity patting either.
Mm-hmm.
but
That's
you know,
right.
right. You
Yeah.
gotta do something. This is your opportunity.
This is it.
Right. And it's early in the night, so you want to do good, because then
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the night could be really rough.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're about to leave the stage.
Right.
So anyway, I think that experience has helped me to just have the attitude of, wait, this is an opportunity. I think
Yeah.
that's what's been put on. Let's go this direction. Let's try it out. And then I liked it.
Mm.
I liked it. I felt. I never talked about how the individuals that I served embraced me. They were so appreciative to have a person who was excited to have the job,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that the job equaled, okay, we're going to be able to do some fun things,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So That it started there, and then I loved that. I liked working with the staff, the people
Mm-hmm.
that also do this work.
Mm-hmm.
Made some really good friendships, relationships, and then there were challenges, that ways that I could get better at
Mm.
this. So I progressed. I moved on from that company and went to another company that had higher, bigger challenges,
Mm.
people that had more intensive needs
Yeah.
behaviorally,
Yeah.
and I took on that challenge and I became better at that. And it's interesting, once you break through the barriers of the behavior,
Mm-hmm.
it's always about getting to the human being,
Yeah.
no matter where it is, no matter what the issue is. A person could have a severe medical need,
Mm-hmm.
right, where it may be difficult to understand who they are as a human being,
Right.
but once you get there,
Mm-hmm.
you go. That to me is the gold nugget.
Mm.
It's like digging for gold.
Right.
The digging is
The
rough,
digging.
but once you get to the gold, the reward is there. The gold in this business to me is the human
Mm-hmm.
that you're serving,
Right.
right? Being able to
Wow.
relate to them, to being able to help them, being able to make them feel human
Right.
and respected and valued. I think that's what really kept me going, is that feeling, and that's like a feeling of success.
Yeah.
I have lots of stories like that. Here's one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw one at you.
Yep.
So I was at this event once, early in my career, where we were in a room. It was like kind of a conference for people with IDD, and we were all watching this movie. And it was a really cool movie about some folks with IDD and their challenges and their adventures, and they were living together and stuff like that.
Right.
After the movie, there was a spot of a time for reflection, right? So we all gave our synopsis of what we thought about the movie, what we saw, interesting points. And during the movie, while we were watching it, there was this individual in the back of the room who was in a wheelchair, severely had severe disabilities,
Okay.
right? Really couldn't talk,
Mm-hmm.
but was certainly a lot of utterances
Mm-hmm.
coming from that person, a lot of noises and things like that.
Right.
And surprisingly, at the end of this movie, where we were all getting insight, I was sitting in the front, sort of, and I just heard this sort of robotic voice chime in and gave this articulation that was amazing. I was like, wow, well, that's pretty cool insight.
Mm-hmm.
I turned around, and it's that individual.
Mm.
There was a device they used
Wow.
to help them
To
communicate.
communicate.
And
Wow.
that was cool, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then on top of it, the I guess it was almost embarrassing for me to, because or an aha moment, that I could be working in this field, and I could still, not realize that some people are really have these lucid thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thoughts that were coming out of this individual were extremely lucid, clear,
Clear. Wow.
articulated well.
Mm-hmm.
But without that device, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
You would think that maybe they're disconnected. They're just not here and
Right.
present, but
Right.
they were very present.
Right.
That taught me a ton right there.
Mm.
Those kind of things, and
Yeah.
I took that experience, and I went and told that story over and over and over as I'm teaching staff how to be successful. Don't talk in front of individuals you serve
Yeah.
like they're not there.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the things I always talk
Yeah.
about. And I tell these stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's another one. An individual who used to come to program all the time and flip tables and scream and holler and stuff, and he really couldn't communicate what was wrong. So what we did was I gave him some paper to draw on. Like, maybe you can write it. And he could write. And he would draw pictures of things and all this stuff. And I still really couldn't get to what was wrong. I thought maybe he was having some PTSD. Maybe he missed his family, because I understand it was a kind of a rough separation from his transition to, from being a teenager to being an adult, going into the adult human service space. But when I found out, after persistence, he kept flipping tables and kept flipping tables. And I said, I asked him, I said, please, can you give me an idea what's wrong? Here, try it again. Do you know? He wrote, my tooth hurts.
Wow.
I have a cavity.
Wow.
I need to go see a dentist. Wow. That clear. And I looked at this. I looked at my staff, and immediately we contacted the organization that
Wow.
served him, showed them, and talked to them about getting him some dental service
Wow.
and work. And he had a ton of cavities in his mouth. So, and
My
the thing was, is
goodness.
what was triggering his behavior is that every time he ate something, it
It
hurt,
hurt.
and he loved to eat.
Mm.
And so that was miserable for him.
Man.
So he was in pain every day. Can you imagine having several cavities that are
Yeah.
just every time you
Right.
touch food?
Right.
So things like that, and I took that story and I learned from it, and I said,
Right.
that means we have to try harder,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't understand what's going on, you don't understand the behavior, but this is a person.
Yeah.
Always remember that.
Yeah.
They have a reason. People
My
don't do
God.
things
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yes.
Somebody doesn't just sit there and all of a sudden erupt into behavior for no reason.
Exactly. Right.
So these kind of things help in the kind of contextualization of the environment for staff, so they understand. Okay, this isn't just a somebody that's just doing something for no reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's so good because I say this to my older boys all the time when dealing with Christian, right? Like, don't say things around him that could be ignorant
Right.
or anything like that because he can understand.
Right.
So Christian is funny though. He'll like with Javion, they have this thing where they're brothers,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
you know how siblings and everything could be.
Sure.
So Christian oftentimes he says words. He can say, a bunch of different words. It's just putting them together is the hard part for him.
Okay.
But sometimes he'll go at Javion if Javion gets on his nerves, and he'll be like, kind of like flinch at him. Like, he can't never say what he wants, but he'll like flinch at him
Sure.
or something like that. And it's so funny because and then Javion will go back and forth with him,
So
right?
both,
And they're
stunting
both
each
like,
other?
yeah, like trying to like acting like they're going to fight, but they really not fighting or something like
That's
that.
funny.
So, but sometimes Javion, he may sit next to Christian while he's eating. Christian hates it, right? He can't stand it, and he'll start screaming, "No!"
Okay.
Right? Because he wants to eat. He's like me.
Okay.
He wants to eat in peace.
Right. Sure.
Right? Like I think most men would.
I agree.
We long day of work.
Yeah.
We just want to sit down,
And eat.
have a meal, and
Yep.
eat. Maybe watch some sports, some TV or something like that, and relax. Don't bother me. Let me
Right.
just enjoy my meal.
Right.
And that's Christian at 7,
Okay.
right? So so for him, it's how he communicates. It's now he's at the point where he'll say, "Juice, please,"
Oh.
right? So he'll sign what he wants. Sometimes he says please, but he doesn't say it all the time.
Okay.
But when he does say it, it's super clear. But for the most part, he'll be like, "Daddy, juice," and then he'll sign please.
Okay.
Or if he wants more, he'll point and he wants more,
Okay.
like more eat. So I think that it's the challenge for us is more so, are we willing to adapt to change?
Yeah. Right.
And adapt to the change,
Right.
are we willing to learn more on how to communicate? This is so good because it's like it's challenging us to communicate in different ways other than verbal.
That's right.
And it's challenging us to
We do it anyway.
We do it anyway, right?
Right.
Our patience.
How much body language goes on that people don't pay attention
Right.
to, but you do pay attention to?
You do.
It means something.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So I think that, as we close out and everything today, like I think that the one challenge that I want everybody to go home with today is elevate your communication, because I think that that's going to be the key to success in all areas of life.
Yes, the goal would be understanding.
Yes.
We want to get to the place of understanding with everybody.
Yeah.
Including people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of paths to that, but you have to be open to it.
Yep.
And again, if I could leave with one thing, I would just say the goal, the reward is to discover the human being.
Come on.
right? Let's get past the stereotype,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's challenge that. Let's get past it,
Yeah.
right? Let's work on, an inclusive
Mm-hmm.
mindset in
Mm-hmm.
everything that we do.
Yeah.
So they're a human being. Let's use every avenue
Yep.
to get to understanding.
Get to understanding.
Yep,
Seek to understand
that's right.
before seeking to be understood.
Ah,
Boom.
wisdom,
There it
wisdom.
is. There it is. Jake Jones, Kenneth Allen Thomas. Listen, we thank you guys for rocking with us today. Listen, let us know what you think. If you guys got any questions or anything like that, go ahead and put them in the chat. Comment. You can go ahead and also email us as well too. Make sure you go ahead and visit us at adeptprograms.com. Visit us also on Instagram at Adept Programs. All right, and we will see you on the next conversation. All right. Until next time, we see y'all later. Peace.